Hello everyone, welcome back to my channel. Today we are going to be discussing a much requested topic, which is how to have an altar that is kind of secret for witches that maybe aren't necessarily out and open about their craft, how they can go about creating a little sacred space, an altar space that is going to work best for them. So let's get into it. So starting on today, I had opened up requests on Instagram to discuss kind of topics that people might be interested in exploring here on my channel. And probably about 15 to 20 times, I had requests for altar spaces for witches that are in the quote broom closet. Before we get started, I have a couple of things I want to say. Firstly, the term broom closet is incredibly debated amongst witches and its correlation with the LGBTQIA+ experience. I'm a cishet person and I am not going to be using that term throughout this because of that. I don't really feel I can contribute to that conversation and it's not really my place. So for the rest of this video, I wanted to initially address what people specifically requested, but for the rest of this video, we're going to be just talking about discreet witchcraft. I think that's a better term for what we're using and something that is more appropriate for me to use. So that being said, the other thing I wanted to talk about before we get into this is if you are a minor, if you are underage, or an adult who is still living at home and you feel as though you need to keep your craft hidden from your parents or whatever living situation that you live in, I really want to implore you to remember that your craft can wait. I know it's really easy, especially with things like the internet. We want to get involved and we want to deep dive into our practices, and I think that that's amazing and so exciting for you. But don't put yourself in physical danger or even risking being turned out of your home. It's not worth it. Witchcraft will still be there when you're living on your own. This video is more for people who perhaps live in a dorm or in some sort of shared communal space where it is safe for them to be practicing and they aren't going to risk losing their home, but simultaneously that's not a part of themselves that they really want to share with the people around them. So let's talk about it, but please remember that you matter and your home is more important than an altar right now. Your craft, your guides, deities, saints, gods, whomever, they're not going to want you to put yourself at risk. So just consider that. So starting off today, I thought we could do something really, really simple. If you follow me on other social media, you will know that budget-friendly witchcraft is a huge go-to for me. I am balling on a budget myself. I always have been. I've not been in a position in my life where, historically, in my life where I've been incredibly well off. And I've had to do things like getting supplies from the grocery store or the dollar store. And so that is today what we are getting our supplies from. So starting off, I went to town and we went to my local grocery store, which was a Rayleigh's, and we went to the Dollar Tree to get just some basic supplies. Overall, there are a few options for people that are not 100% ready to be out in public with their craft while still having an altar. The first thing that I would suggest is always going to be an Altoid tin travel altar. I've actually given these out in my Patreon for the spellcaster boxes before. They're incredible for if you are needing things to be discreet or if you are traveling. You just take a little simple Altoids tin and you can put a picture of your guide or deity in the front, and you can have some little essentials that live inside of the box. And the Altoid tin containers are great because when they open up, they stand on their own, and you can use them just like an altar. I'm going to include a photo somewhere over here of a few examples of Altoid tin containers that are altars. I currently could not find mine because I packed it up for moving. And I personally, I hate Altoids. I'm sorry. I know that's such an unpopular opinion, but I don't like Altoids. I think they're just too much. It's too much, quite frankly. It's too strong. And and I don't want to get another one and start over. And I also think that's kind of wasteful when I already have one. So we don't want waste around here. The other thing you can do is use a shoebox. Now the shoebox is quite tricky because if you are somebody who is living at home and maybe has a nosy parent or even like a person that lives in a dorm with you, a shoebox, although it is discreet, it also might leave people wondering, why do you have a shoebox over there? What's in the shoebox? So consider that before going the shoebox route. Just like the Altoids tin, in the inside of the shoebox, you can keep all of your tools that you might need, that you can take out when it's appropriate and when you can use them, like for spell work or similar. And you can close it right up. And the shoeboxes are cool because they give you a lot of space to decorate the inside, to put pictures of whoever you're a patron to, and it does kind of nicely and neatly tidy up. Yeah, I am somebody who has used shoebox altars in the past. I do not have one currently. But when I was a much younger person and I was in a communal space, and it wasn't even about being discreet per se, but more, it was like a space issue for me, I'll be honest. I lived in a really, really tiny apartment. I'm from San Francisco originally, and I don't know if you've ever been there, but the apartment spaces are quite small, and so was my living space. I quite literally lived in a closet. Yeah, it was, my bedroom was literally a closet. We were crunched for space. And so shoebox altars are great. And I know that with these last two options, you might be asking yourself, well, how is that? Like, how am I going to put offerings? How am I going to do this? You need to put yourself in a position of remembering that you are the patron to these deities, gods, saints, etc. You're the patron, and with that patronage, you need to keep it realistic for your life. No relationship with a deity should be one that you are sacrificing yourself to an extent that is unrealistic for your lifestyle. Our practices, they are going to grow, they're going to transform countless times over time. And with that happening, it simply means that if right now what you've got working for you is an Altoid tin or a shoebox, that is fine, and that is no more or less valid than somebody who can have a permanent altar or multiple altars at a single time. Now, the next one I'm going to get into is one that I personally recommend. This is, again, something that I have done before, and this is what I collected today when we went out to the store. So we are going to do today a very simple and discreet windowsill altar. I think that these are great because it puts you in a position where you can kind of let it grow. It can be a permanent altar for you, but it is still discreet, and it isn't putting you in a position where any person would come in and just know that it's an altar right away. So all you need is a windowsill, and I understand that not everybody has windowsills, so things like the top of your dresser might work. Just like any kind of flat surface that is out and open that is also out of the way. Because the point of this is to be discreet, right? And what you're going to want to get for this is a few things. Firstly, I always recommend a standard offering of fresh flowers. I keep them at my altar. I refresh them basically once a week, maybe every other week. I'm a big fan of carnations myself. They're affordable and they last a really, really long time. If you go to like Trader Joe's or something, oftentimes you can get like 6 or 7 carnations for $1. And I love that. We love a good deal. So you're going to want to get some flowers. You're going to want to get yourself a candle. I picked up at the dollar store both a 7-day candle and just like a cheap little scented candle in a jar. Both work. When you go the 7-day route, it does become a little bit more what's going on there. If you go the scented candle route, it becomes a little bit more discreet. Candles and lights, lanterns, etc. are a really good way to attract spirit to your altar space. Lanterns would be a quote preferred method for some people. I personally am just a believer of keeping a candle lit and an offering candle or a patron candle lit. And I know that the internet makes it seem like you're going to have these grand dedication candles, and if you can have those, amazing, but if you can't, there is nothing wrong with going to Target and finding yourself a nice scented candle that's going to sit in that space. Something else that you can keep is a glass of water. Water is really good for spirits as well. Spirit in this meaning deities and gods and we're using it as a catch-all term. Another thing that you're going to want to do, or that you can do, is kind of assess your incense options. So I personally leave incense every single day as an offering at my altar. That might not be an option for you. Today I picked up this glass jar and I put some salt in it. The glass jar is to serve two purposes. So first, you can put your incense in it, and it kind of keeps it all in there, and simultaneously the ash will go down there. You don't have to worry about a mess. Less mess means less chances of somebody wanting to clean up the space for you, touching your altar, which I would assume that you would not want to have happen. The other option is to go down the route of using that same candle holder for discreet spell work. So you have your glass jar, you have your salt in it, and you can put spell candles in it for, petitions, for offerings, for spell work. And if it's already being used as an incense holder, nobody's going to notice if you swap it out for a candle once or twice. Simultaneously, putting a candle in there, you could just be looking like you're balling on a budget, and there's nothing wrong with that. It kind of gives you this little catch-all situation that opens you up to having a lot of different options for your altar, while simultaneously not being too crazy. I know the jar that I picked out today was kind of big, but you can get a jar that works for you. You can get beautiful vases, etc. I really recommend checking out a thrift store because these all serve the same purpose. And finally, for my ultimate discreet witchcraft hack, is go get yourself a wax melt holder. The ones that have the little tea light at the bottom, and you would put a wax melt on top. Now, I lost my little wax melt holder, so I've just got a little bowl underneath it, which for this, video serves a purpose. But what you can do is you can add ingredients for spells into the bowl along with water, and you can be burning them for discreet spell work. And if anybody asks, just say it's potpourri. It's that simple. And together you can put all these things up at your altar, and it's really not that obvious as to what's going on. When it comes to things like your symbols for your deities or gods, this is when things get a little bit tricky. Now, I personally would, in a normal circumstance, recommend having at least a photo of whoever you're paying patron to. However, you can do things like finding symbols that are connected with that patron or with that deity instead. So, for example, I work with Santa Muerte, and if I were doing a discreet altar, I would have symbols of the dead, so maybe a skull. I would also have things like an owl because she's connected very closely with the imagery of an owl. This is what I would do for my situation. Yours is going to be different depending on who you are a patron to. These are things to consider overall, but realistically, you can set yourself up a really nice windowsill altar, and you don't have to go in any kind of way that is going to scream, "Witch over here!" She's a witch! So overall, I would just start looking at this. I'm a really big fan of windowsill altars in general. I think it's very nice to have a little altar that the moon can shine down on as well as the sun in the daytime. And it's something to consider whether you are discreet with your witchcraft or you are, you know, open about it. So I hope that you guys found this helpful. And overall, I really think that you should look into windowsill altars in case you're in that predicament. Bye!